The conversation about body count for me is not a conversation about, oh, the vast majority of women are promiscuous. The vast majority of women are hopping in and out of bed with people. The conversation for me is just that when women do that, it's not a good look, right? And it's not a good look, and guys don't like it. And the reason that guys don't like it is not because they're insecure or because of it's because they just don't.
But
they
why?
Don't. Why do you think?
I don't know. I mean, I do think that you have an argument to be made that the more sexual encounters you have, the more likely that you are going to suffer some kind of emotional negative response there. I think that that's honestly a valid concern. Baggage in a relationship is not usually very desired. But again, I think that kind of goes both ways. I think that I don't think women want a guy who has a lot of baggage.
But it doesn't go both ways because women don't care. The reason it doesn't go both ways is because we can sit here and analyze the situation and say, maybe you and I sit and say it should go both ways. Maybe you and I sit and say there shouldn't be a double standard here. But there is, because women and men care about different things.
But see,
so the reason the double standard exists is because women don't say, I care. Women control all of this, by the way. Women could step up and say, I care about guys' body count, and I'm not going to mess around with guys who have a high body count, and all the bad boys, the players, whatever you want to call them, the chads, would be sexless. Women don't make that decision. They sleep with those guys because they don't care about those numbers. Now, we can dig into the why of that. Maybe there's something biological there, but that is just the reality that we're dealing with.
I understand that for some women that's the reality, but I feel like you keep on doing the extrapolating certain qualities onto the vast majority of women. When you say women are doing this thing, that's not true. Women, on average, are not becoming more promiscuous.
Forget about
some
that.
Women
We're not talking about that, though. We're talking about whether women care about male body count.
And some
whether
women
men
do, some women don't.
You don't think that it can be said that more women don't care? You don't think that that's a fair assessment?
Based on the numbers that I have seen, they, both men and women, said that their ideal amount of prior sex partners was around 7.
You're trying to say it's equal for men and women.
It was around 7.5 to 7.6.
That's not a reflection of reality.
Okay, it's from Healthline. That's obviously a medical institution here that's tracking this kind of thing.
That's like saying that Pfizer did the studies on the COVID vaccine. So, but we'll get to that.
Well, no, but this is the problem is I don't think it's fair to just write off the numbers because we see a lot of extreme examples. You turn on TikTok and you see a dumb feminist screaming about how she fucked 35 guys and that's actually super empowering. But those extreme examples, the loudest voices, right? Those don't necessarily speak for the majority.
But we're not talking
women
about that.
In general.
We're talking about the why. So if we say that guys do care, let's just say guys care about body count. You hear guys all the time saying,
I agree.
And especially guys in this space, right? We're talking about red pill space. They say they do care.
Sure.
I think that they care because whether you've been, I use the word loose, not to mean physically, but in terms of anatomy, but loose in terms of your decision making, is a reflection of your values, is a reflection of who you are. I think guys oftentimes will separate women into play, and then who I'm going to be serious about. And oftentimes there are two categories. And if they're looking at a woman and saying, this is somebody I could be serious about, this is someone who I could take home to mom, this is someone who I may want to build a family with, it's very hard for them to have that woman also have had a very compromising past because their values matter. That's when that comes into play.
What would you define as like a compromising past? Because a lot of the times I wonder, are the red pill people talking about they want women to be virgins? Are they saying
I can only
haven't
speak for
been
myself.
super slutty in the past?
I can only speak for myself. For me, that means that if you have a pattern as a female, if I were a guy looking at a woman and if you had a pattern as a female of not pairing sex with emotion, that would be a red flag for me. I would be out the door. Because that shows me a pattern of behavior that you may continue. And I think there's a lot of comfort for men in women who are just unable to do that, right? They're just unable to go sleep with somebody if they don't care about them, if they don't have some emotion involved.
Right.
Because that woman is more likely to be loyal, faithful. She just is. The other one's going to be a wild card. I'm not saying they're going to cheat necessarily, but they have the ability to not pair sex with emotion, which in a guy's mind means, well, they did it before a bunch of times. This could happen again. They're capable of that behavior. So I think that's why they're looking at it like that. And for me, listen, I hear guys talk about virgin. I don't hear a lot of guys saying a woman has to be a virgin. I don't know that that's realistic. We're in the time we live in. Who's going to fit that description? I'm sure some religious people. I'm not saying no, but if I were a man, would I want to be with someone? I'm trying to flip the shoes. I'm not a man, but someone who was a virgin versus somebody who had a body count of 10. Virgin.
Well, sure, because
no question.
Again, like what we said, a lot of the times more sexual encounters can contribute to additional baggage.
So that's
but what if we're talking about a woman who, say, has had prior sexual encounters? Maybe she's been like around 7 people before, so it's getting into territory where maybe the guy's a little hesitant. But what if she doesn't have any lasting emotional damage from that? What if it was, maybe 7 would be a little extreme, but what if it was like a couple prior relationships where she had
different.
sex? Is
I
that
think
different?
that's to me, I can say that's totally different, because if you, and it also depends on your age, right? I mean, I got married in my mid 30s. So, I got married late. So it wasn't like, I was just, 18 years old, got married. People do things at different stages of life. So I'm not saying that you can't have any type of past. What I am saying is the more your past houses, emotion separated from sex, a willingness to have a one-night stand here and there, the more problematic it is for a man to think about that. And I think a lot of it is that men are very visual. And I think, guys don't even want to hear about like who you dated. Like they're just like content to think like, okay, you woke up today and she's with me and end of story. I don't need to think about what happened before, because it's hard to visualize that for them. And uncomfortable. And I think that's part of it. If they know you've been
fair for women though too. I mean, obviously if you're with a man, you don't really want to hear about his prior sexual engagements. You don't want to hear about his ex. Like that's like rule number 1.
Women chase bad boys all the time. So if they were so concerned about the bad boy and they couldn't handle it and this, that, they wouldn't chase them. So they do it. Their behavior shows otherwise, because in every, think about a high school setting. I mean, think about a college setting. That guy who has the pick of the litter and, has done some stuff that maybe is not so moral and noble and isn't the guy saving himself for a woman, they chase him all the time. They chase him all the time. Now, there's a number of reasons why they do that. It's not just because part of it is because they're able to get the girls, and there's a suavity and a masculinity that comes with that. But women tell you in their behavior all the time that they don't care about this stuff by the attention, that the types of guys that get attention. So that's how I view it.
I understand that, and I definitely see where you're coming from. And I don't even entirely disagree with you. I don't. I think that you've raised a lot of good points, specifically the possibility of there being more baggage. Obviously, I agree with that. That's kind of almost a given. But again, like my main issue is just to be sure that we're not extrapolating this as if this is like the general woman population becoming slutty or whatever.
My concern is not, and I don't sit here and say, oh, this is a trend that's among all women, or this is, but it is a growing trend.
But it's not.
No, it is though. But it is though.
But then
it is a growing even if women, there is a changing perception about sex that women have. When you talk to women today versus you talked to women 15, 20 years ago. I taught in schools. I was an advisor to kids. I was an academic dean at one point. There is a lightness with which this stuff is spoken about and handled that didn't exist before. There was more of a sense that physical intimacy needed to actually be intimacy, and that these were decisions that should carry weight in your life. Even if you watch the television programming from 20 years ago, I can remember watching like 90210, and whether Brenda and Dylan were going to sleep together was a big storyline. So I think that what has happened is, and it's not, for me, it's not even about the behavior, it's about the mindset that has changed. And I think that's a growing problem among women. I would like to see more women saying, my body is valuable to me. I have value. That's part of my value. And I'm not going to share it with just anybody. That should be a message we're putting out there for women.
And I mean, obviously, having a perception, again, like that sex is just super cheap, kind of doesn't really matter. I do think that it's good to have discretion before you're sleeping with somebody. I've never been a fan of the hookup culture crap. I think that is honestly opening yourself up to a lot of emotional risks. And of course, there's the potential physical risks of STDs and whatnot. But if you're saying there's a growing perception among women, maybe, but I don't think it's fair for you to say this is a growing trend unless we're going to just say it's a growing trend in perception.
Well, so I can't.
Well, if you're saying it's a growing thing or a growing trend, why then has women's sexual encounters not risen from 2000 to 2017?
So I'd have to confirm the validity of that study and what you're talking about. Because
hypothetically, if it was right, though, what would you say?
Well, hypothetically, if it was right, then it would show me that women are lying somewhere. Because when there's tens upon tens upon tens upon tens upon tens of them that say otherwise, that we hear. So where are those women? They're not in that study, I guess. What's going on? People also live. Like I love these studies that look at, hey, there's 500 people here, and you're like, but I exist in the world, and I went out, and saw 300 women in front of me at a club the other night, and this is what I saw. And there's like things that you observe sometimes, you see with your own two eyes, and you're like, that is not what's happening. I mean, I don't think it's like talking about the moral degradation of society. We can sit here and say that there was a study that showed that people still have strong morals, and they went into a room and they all said, I have strong morals, and they wrote it on a piece of paper. And then you look around at like rap music and people twerking on stage and, abortion being treated like birth control. And that's just not a reality of what's happening in terms of human behavior. So I don't know what the study says, but I can tell you that I showcase woman after woman after woman that wears their high body count like a badge of honor. And that is a bad thing. I don't care.
Just to be clear, just like I was saying, please don't extrapolate from anecdotes onto general. I'm not saying that the data speaks for everybody.
But that's what these guys are saying that you're railing against. What the sneakos and what they're saying is that's not a good look for women. It's just not a good look. We don't want to take women seriously who behave that way. That's all they're saying is like, if you are wearing your body count proudly on your forehead and it's just 75, I'm not bringing you home to mom.
Then that should be the conversation, not
this
is a growing trend of women becoming promiscuous and it's so scary.
That is the conversation.
So they're having conversations just about specific women who they view as being
No, they're
more
having a
promiscuous?
conversation of like, women are vocalizing, women are coming on these shows, right? On whatever show, Fresh and Fit, and they're saying, this is my life. I can do whatever I want. This is my body count. And well, if I don't care about yours, why are you going to care about mine? There's a double standard. And these guys are just simply saying there's a double standard because you don't care about my body count and I do care about yours. The double standard is called reality. Men are men, women are women. We care about different things. And I'm just telling you straight up, you can continue to do what you want to do. But if you continue to do that, I'm not wifing you up. So either take note of that and change your behavior or be content to not be wifed up by guys like me. Okay. I think that's fair.
Honestly, if that was what they were saying, I'd be fine with it. But I mean,
because
because I listen
to it all the time.
But just a minute ago, you yourself said the promiscuity is growing. It's a growing trend, and that's an empirical claim. So if you say this is something that is growing or this trend is becoming this thing, that is an empirical claim. You need to have some kind of a data set to actually demonstrate that.
What I'm saying is you have an increasing number of women that are showing up and being very loud and very vocal about the fact that this is their behavior. I don't know if they're going to be reflected in whatever study you're citing, but they are on camera. They are saying, this is my behavior, I'm proud of it, and you have to deal with it. And guys are saying, no, honey, I actually don't have to deal with it. I can not wife you up and you can be alone. And I'm just saying, if the goal here is to get more women and more men to find a happy union, shouldn't we just acknowledge the basic realities that men and women care about different things?
I feel like we obviously acknowledge that.
But
that's obvious. People know that men and women...
No, but they don't. They don't, or they wouldn't be sitting at a table with Myron and saying, well, I don't care about your body count. Why do you care about mine? All he's saying is, I don't care because as a man, I'm looking for different things in a female than as a female. Like maybe you care about how much money I make a year, but I don't care if you work at Applebee's.
Right. No, that's true. Men are definitely far more visual, but I feel like there's another contradiction in what you said because you're simultaneously saying that maybe these studies indicating that there hasn't been a growing trend of women having more sexual.
I don't trust your sample pool.
But you're saying maybe they were lying, and you're also saying women are now wearing their high body count as a badge of honor. So why were they lying in the study?
I don't know. No, I'm not saying maybe they're lying. I'm saying I don't know. I don't know anything about these studies. I haven't had the chance to look and evaluate what the sample size is, what it looks like, how they ask these questions, I don't know anything about these studies. So I can't weigh in on them. You could send them to me and I can cover them.
I'd be happy to send them to you if you'd
like. But what I'm saying to you is point blank, and I'm not coming here with this stat and that stat. What I'm saying to you is I see a growing pride in women for bad behavior. I see a growing number of women who are told and have absorbed that this is good behavior. And then I see those same women in 10 years as a result of that behavior alone and unhappy. If you like the short clip and want to watch another short clip, click here. Or if you want to watch the full episode, click right here.